I have Patrik, who's the owner and founder of Desert Barbell here in Dubai. Patrik's a national powerlifter for Sweden, and he runs the powerlifting meets here in Dubai. He's a qualified physiotherapist, and he's, I guess, the go-to guy for all things strength in Dubai. Plus, I've also had your partner on the podcast as well, Anna. So I think you're the first couple to actually...
there you go.
To be on. So welcome, Patrik, to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much. And first of all, when it comes to national team lifter, I'm a masters lifter, not an open lifter. So that means I'm above 40. Just want to say that so people don't think I'm cocky or anything. Yeah. Because the demands to getting in as an open lifter, as in the open category, is incredible high. So I kind of abided my time. And when I turned 40, I had the chance to go to the national team, and that's where we are now, so that's good. Yeah,
so just give the listeners a bit of background on yourself and tell us about your lifting career and like when you started powerlifting, when you first discovered it.
Yep. I can first kind of like tell about like my sports background because it's really, really like really varied. And I really didn't start lifting, or especially competitive lifting, until pretty late. So I started, of course, being in Sweden, hockey, football, cross-country skiing, and tennis. That were the big things when I grew up, and also table tennis. Yeah. So I pretty much had five primary sports, kind of. Football was the one I played longest. I played football as in conventional soccer for 15, 16 years. And it was pretty much, at the end of that, I wouldn't call it a career. I went up to Division 3 in Sweden, which isn't like super high level, but still pretty competitive. In the end of that, I started to go more to the gym, kind of. But I was never interested in bodybuilding or anything like that. I just want to be better in performing whatever I did at the gym. So already from the start, I really enjoy the bench press and the other movements too also, but especially the bench press.
What age specifically was this?
I started to go to the gym around... like I was, say, 16, 17 years old. So kind of like did that parallel to the football up until I went to the military back in 94, 95. So pretty much after 95, strength was kind of like my major thing. I wasn't competitive or anything or competing. But I did a lot of gym training, a lot of like all kinds of training, also a lot of cardiovascular training. And then in 1997, I took my personal training degree. And that kind of like started working with fitness. Yeah. First, as kind of like wasn't a primary job. I had a like conventional job, and then I had a part-time job as a trainer. Yeah.
And then when you said you sort of got into it, you weren't into the bodybuilding side of things. You're more into sports performance.
Yeah, I was never ever like interested in bodybuilding that way. I mean, I knew of the bodybuilding guys. We had a few back home in my city, and of course knew about like Dorian Yates back in the day, Ronnie Coleman, those people that came up around that time. But it was never really my thing. I always kind of like ventured more towards the like performance of actually lifting as heavy weights that you can do. So that was kind of like how I got into it.
Who did you look up to, I guess, when you first went into the gym? Because, you can imagine as a 17-year-old kid, you don't know much going into a gym. Was there someone who took you under their wing and said, Patrik, this is how you do it? Or
No, not really. I was, since I wasn't in the bodybuilding clique, because when I grew up, and especially in the mid-90s, there were like quite a few bodybuilders actually where I'm from. And I never really hang with those guys. I pretty much kept on my own side. But my number one idol from the start was my dad. He competed in powerlifting in the late 60s, and actually was part of founding one of the clubs in the southern/middle part of Sweden when I was born, and that was in 68, 69, 70 somewhere. And he trained quite hard and quite serious up until 1973, when my sister was born, and he literally said to my mother like, this kid is not going to stop my training. But it did. So he didn't train, to be honest, from 1973 to early 2000s or something. Yeah. And literally not at all, strength at least.
Yeah. So I guess he would have shaped your...
Yeah, he would have, but he shaped kind of like my mindset, and he was... a few times he was with me and trained, so I wouldn't say he never trained, but like but it was definitely my inspiration from the start. As kind of like the basic. We had a few dumbbells and such at home, and I knew that my dad had pictures from when he was competing before, so that was kind of like my basic like role model, to be honest. Then coming into the gym environment, I really didn't have too many role models there, because in my city they were all bodybuilders. We actually had 2 people that won like international medals, and one of the females have won the worlds also, so pretty high level. But then moving to university, for university in 2001, I came across one of the powerlifting clubs in the university city, which is Umeå in the north of Sweden also, and there I find like quite a few role models, and one of them was one of the older guys that I trained with. His name was Sven, and he was in his, back then, he was in his upper 50s. And I was like, what was I then, 26, 27 or something? 26. And we started training together, and he was really a role model for me, but like, I think it was 56 or 57 at the time. And he was pretty much doing my numbers in bench. And he was like, I was like weighing him with like 15 kilos or something. So like, I think that was pretty cool. So that was how I got into competitive powerlifting, and especially bench press from the start, and because the club there was really, really good, especially for bench press. So in Sweden we have a league system. We should like pretty much have, I think it was 3 or 4 divisions only for bench press, where all the teams compete against each other. And back in those days, the bench press league was pretty big and also pretty popular. So we were fighting our way up through the system, and we ended up in the elite league the last year when I was in university. And then kind of like snowballed from there. Yeah.
And then in terms of like, you know, you've obviously, you know, maybe you got the genetics from your dad as well, but in terms of when you came in, did you, I guess, have a natural ability for strength, or was that something that came over time, or?
Nah, not really. I would say also...
Because you know how some people walk into the gym and they just naturally have that.
No, I wasn't that. No. I wasn't that guy at all. To put some perspective on it, I can... one of my old football trainers said a very thing that resonated to me, and I tell that story every now and then. I was, to be fair, haven't really had talent for anything, to be honest, in sports. And in football, he said to me, "Hey man, Pat, if you had 5% talent, you'll be in the national team, because I've never met anyone training as hard as you do." And first of all, I thought it was kind of like a dick thing to say, but then like throughout years, I kind of like learned to like that, because it's not like I walk in and have like enormous amount of capacity and talent for anything. And especially strength, because I wasn't strong from the beginning. It wasn't like a rapid growth in like muscle or anything. So kind of like kept grinding on for years and years and years. I think, and it sounds kind of maybe weird for people who knows me as a powerlifter, the thing I had most talent in was running, because I did a lot of running when I was a kid. And I've done a few races, and especially up to 10K and 8K races. And I've never been super, super fast. But I'm pretty darn good at 5K and above. But I've never done a half marathon or anything. I've done the longest thing I've ever competed is 10K. But in short distances and strength, that was never really a talent. So I kind of like grew to kind of like the process of just grinding it through. And I see so many people, especially now when powerlifting has been big, been a lot bigger now than before. So many talents they just look at the barbell and they squat 200. Which was back when I started was like an epic goal. It took me quite some time before I even squatted 200, like quite some time. And benching 150 and 160, some of the kids do that very, very fast now, which was not the case before. So the talent pool is like a lot bigger. And I just hope that people learn to appreciate the talent that they have, because I've also seen quite a few people in our region with incredible talent. And then kind of like when it goes too fast, they lose interest. So I think that...
it makes sense. But I think powerlifting in general, you need to love the training aspect of it, because 95 or 98% of it is training.
Yeah,
and you want 1% of it's you standing on the platform at the end.
Showing up, doing the work every single session, regardless if it's 3, 2, 4, 5 sessions a week. Showing up, consistently putting in the work, and if you put in the work for a long period enough, the results will come.
Yeah.
And that's also what I like with it, and also especially because there's so many. If you call ourselves older people, but grown-up people, which is like above 30 and above, that starts with powerlifting as of like now, and they can still develop quite a lot. And I have like a lot of examples of people being in their early 40s, early 50s, or even like late 50s that are world-class strong. Not like world-class for their age, as in world open class strong.
Yeah.
And I don't think there are many sports that you find like a 50-year-old guy being competitive on a worldwide championship.
Yeah.
I don't
When
think so.
do you think would be the ideal time if you were someone starting out powerlifting and you could groom them? What's the optimal? Would you start them at the younger age, or?
I will probably.
And then I guess when does someone actually peak athletically with strength?
I think it's really hard. It's a little bit hard to say. I think that in most other sports, like sprinting, like our like close by sport, weightlifting, for instance, swimming, they peak a lot faster, and you can keep the peak a little bit shorter. I think ideally, I don't know, I will probably guess like mid-30s or something would probably be, because then you're seasoned enough to be having a very long, very, very long training base, and then you're skilled enough both mentally and kind of like in your kind of like your routine around competitions or whatever. So that's kind of like where you can put everything out there, I would think.
Yeah.
Especially if you're thinking longevity in terms of people that don't use performance enhancing drugs also, because that could probably shifts the curve quite a lot.
Yeah.
But if you take like an undrugged athlete, I would say like 35 or even later.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of specificity, when should we start them? It's a little bit two-edged sword there, because I think that for now also when we have people choosing powerlifting as a primary sport,
especially at a young age,
the amount of people doing that now compared to 10, 15 years ago is a lot higher, because before it was almost always people that came out of, okay, they injured their knee, started squatting, and boom, you're a powerlifter. You come from cross-country skiing or like downhill skiing, you like don't make the team or make the squad for your team, blah, 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 and then you go to powerlifting.
Yeah.
Now we have people choosing powerlifting as a primary sport. A good example is the European Championship is on now, and yesterday we had one of the guys in the 83 category, a sub-junior, claiming the European title, a Swedish guy. And his results that he did is an 83 kilogram guy, is just below what I do. And I've been training for like 25 years. So it's mind blowing. And I weigh him with like 25 kilos.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's weird. And then, but I think that if we peak them too fast, too high, I don't see the growth being. I don't think he will peak when he's 35, by no means. I think that the people that peak when they're 35 is probably the sleepers that were not necessarily top level when they were sub-juniors and juniors, or maybe even didn't even do powerlifting. Maybe they probably did other explosive stuff or explosive sports, but not powerlifting per se. I think.
Yeah. Well, what people don't realize that don't compete or don't haven't been exposed to powerlifting is how much nuances there are in the sport, and how technical the lifts are, and how it takes years and years to perfect. I think a lot of people who haven't been exposed to it might think oh yeah, bench press is just the bar goes up, the bar goes down. But I guess can you explain for the listener, to say someone who hasn't been exposed to powerlifting, what the three lifts are and how it is a technical sport?
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, so that's a good call, because obviously it's for me it's obvious, but it's the squat, it's the bench press, and it's the deadlift. And there is, as you say, there's a clear distinction between a person that goes to the gym and a person that do powerlifting. Because go to the gym means that you can do all kinds of movement. You don't really focus too much on one or the other. Maybe you focus on legs, or you focus on lats or whatever. But as a powerlifter, you focus primarily on these 3 movements, and this movement is the highest priority. So that's why it's always a little bit intriguing to talk to people that have gone to the gym for a long time. And then you try to explain to them, like, yeah, we have, for instance, a world-level girl who squats like 30 kilograms more than a big chunky dude on 100 kilograms does, and she weighs maybe 80 kilos. They have a very hard time understanding or grasping how that is even remotely possible. Yeah, but it is, because she focuses only on this, and you focus on all other things. You don't focus on the performance side of it. And as you said also, it's a lot of technical things going into it. And I mean, choosing your exact squat stance, your bar placement, having the right type of kind of like movement pattern or rhythm for you, and just perfecting and just sucking up that what you have to do in order to become a great squatter is to squat multiple times per week and not always go like full on crazy heavy. You have to really fine tune the movement and do that for many sessions. And if you say that to someone who just goes to the gym, will be like, no man, bro, I can only squat once a week and then I need to like rest my legs. It was like, well, you haven't trained as a powerlifter then. You've been training as a bodybuilder or like as a fitness person. And if you go slam yourself with like 6 sets of 10, and then you do 5 sets of leg press to failure, and then you do leg extension, 5 sets of 20 to die, and then you do like leg curls, and then you do like some straight leg deadlifts after that to actually die. You have to recover, of course. But you have to also understand that if you play tennis every single day. You get better at playing tennis. The movement when you do tennis is kind of like you swing with your right arm and you do something with your pec on the right side if you're right-handed. Doesn't mean you grow your pec. It means you're better at tennis. So that's kind of like the end product here also. Kind of like a byproduct of being a great squatter will probably be that you have some sort of leg size and leg and like hamstring, quad, and like glute size, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're like huge. It's a matter of performing the movement better and better, which I think is sometimes a little bit hard for conventional gym people to grasp, especially when you look at world-class performances and you can't really grasp how that can be possible to do.
And then also like the neural side of it, being able to fire all the motor units at once. Is a technique and a skill. Like you can have someone who's got a huge cross-sectional area of muscle, but they might have been training in that sort of 12 to 15, 20 reps.
It's about getting used to handling heavy weights and doing it as efficient and as fast as possible. And I think that's the beauty and what I like most about the sport. And I don't want to diss super heavyweights or anything like that, but I think the most interesting classes are kind of like the mid-section or middleweight classes. For the guys who will be like 83, 93, and maybe the 105s, when you have like normal-ish looking kind of guys that makes insane weights. And also for the girls, if you look at the girls, all girls categories of course good, but if you look at especially maybe the 57, 63, 72 category, which is kind of like the middle-sized girl, they're not big, they're not like in any way looking bulky or anything, but they move incredible amount of weight. And once again, not to diss the super heavyweights, because they also move, of course, even more weight. But it's just the visual aspect of having a person look normal, performing unhuman tasks. Is pretty cool. So an example would be, so people out there can get a little bit of know how it is. You have now guys in the 83 category for guys squatting 300 kilos, which was only when I started training or started competing. I remember back in Sweden, which is a pretty good powerlifting nation, we had 1 or 2 guys in the super heavyweight that I knew back then that had the possibility of squatting 300. Now you have 83 kilogram guys doing it, and closing up on the 74 category doing it. So that's like, it is absolutely mind-blowing. And like 100 kilogram squat for a girl when I started, as in classic lifting, with only knee sleeves and belt, was a really, really good squat. Now at this gym, we had like 10, 15 girls doing it. We have girls now doing maybe like 15 reps on 100.
But do you think with stuff like that, do you think it's because opened up the gene pool, there's more people doing it, or is it better program design, or is it better recovery?
No,
or
I think it's. I don't think it has literally anything to do with the training programs of now, not with the recovery either. I think it's just a matter of like people seeing other people doing it, and all of a sudden it's not a specific, like it's not a special task.
Yeah.
Kind of like when they break the world record for mile and stuff like that.
4 minute mile, yeah.
So, and just being in that environment, and I see this here also because when I trained back home, we trained at a club with like 40 competitive powerlifters, and we saw that was kind of like when the rapid growth of powerlifting started in like 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just being in the surrounding when you have like 30, 40 other guys and girls pushing heavy weights, that kind of like brings you up to a different level. And if you have a person coming from a completely non-powerlifting environment coming into a powerlifting club, they think like, holy smokes, how can people be so strong? But then you acclimatize, and if you go to a conventional gym and you think, man, I'm the strongest guy around, like, man, this is super sweet. And then you go to a powerlifting club, and, oh man, I'm number 30 now. Which was kind of like the case also when I came here. I came here first time 6 years ago, but I moved here 2015, starting training in one of the CrossFit boxes. Or like actually at Fitness HQ in the CrossFit box down below the gym there, and I really enjoyed it. Really nice crowd there. But you run into a problem as a powerlifter. You don't have enough room on the bar with bumper plates, and they thought I was like the strongest man they've ever seen. But like, no, not really. I'm like
there's a bumper plate.
Yeah, like 'cause I'm number 10 in my country, but soon I'm a masters lifter and I'll be number 1 or 2. But so like the perception of strength for people there was a completely different one for me. I mean, I wasn't even the strongest one in my club by any means. So that's just how...
and I guess that for you, that could be a limiting factor because you're not around people who are stronger than you, so you're not reaching...
That's what I like with the club now that we created here. We have like 100 close to 150 some members, and pretty much all of them has the primary goal of being stronger. If it's weightlifting or powerlifting, either way, it's the primary goal of being stronger. And we have a whole bunch of guys that are like on my level or in some of the lifts above my level. So it's kind of nice to not be the only one that like squats heavy or anything. So that's really nice. And that's also the girls see other girls lifting heavyweights. Young guys come in and see other guys lifting heavyweights. It's a special feeling for them, and it's a good environment, I think.
Yeah, I guess that probably leads into the next question about Desert Barbell, but it's also like the community that you've I guess built here and around. You know, you can see it because I've attended quite a few of your powerlifting meets, but also just coming into the club or the gym. It's not like walking into a Fitness First. It's not like walking into a commercial gym. It's like you're in an actual sports club.
Yeah. Now that's good that you say it, because we're also, and people hear this too, I think they're almost sick, that I always say when they say, oh, how's the gym going? Well, it's not a gym, it's a club.
Yeah.
Like, because it is really that way. It is a club. It's kind of like it's driven like a club, and we won't have the kind of club feeling.
Yeah, and it's kind of social as well. You can see like after the powerlifting meet, you see they're all friends, they're all talking to each other. You know, it's not... So
there's no or very little of these like ego things going on, and it's quite a big difference. And I think that Dubai, as in the community that we had I can tell you when it started. It was back in 2000 and I looked at 2016. We did our first competition, and I think that if we would have started this club back in 2016, it wouldn't have worked because the community wasn't there. But we kind of like, me and Marco, my business partner, we kind of played the long game. As in, we started the first competition in 2016 in October, if I remember correctly now. And then the Desert Barbell brand, actually the name was thought up by Tarek Rumi, one of our friends. Yeah. And we started...
athlete.
Yeah, athlete and matter nutrition, Tarek, yeah. So he came up with a name, and we kind of like, yeah, it sounds cool. Like Desert Barbell, that has a nice ring to it. Let's not get carried away. Let's start to kind of like build the brand awareness and build the brand culture and some sort of identity for the brand. We had some help.
Did someone give you that advice to say, okay, this is the long-term approach, or did you just conceptualize
we kind
it
of
yourself?
like conceptualized it ourselves, and we kind of, both me and Tarek and Marco, kind of dreamt of having a facility like this pretty fast, but we didn't really actively work for it. We started to create the brand identity. We had some help to do the actual logos and like create our brand values and such. And then I took Marco and Tarek and a few other guys to Sweden for a competition back then. And when we were at my club, it's not my club, but the club I represent in Sweden, which is also like a very nice Eleiko facility. We saw, or Marco got also with me to see how that is run, and we looked at each other and said, well, this is probably doable in Dubai. We just have to have the right opportunity for a good facility, like a good location, need to have the right equipment, and just having the right capital to start. So we started working on the business plan pretty darn fast after that. Yeah. And that business plan was like slowly maturing for like at least a year and a half before we actually started to look actively for people that could be involved in the project, because we didn't have the money to buy this all ourselves. We have to have some sort of investors, right? So that was kind of like how that started. And then alongside that, we continued to grow the brand identity. We did a few power meets. Now we're down to the next one will be the Power Meet 8. So we've done then from the first one, second, third, fourth, fifth, 5, 6, 7 was the last one, and next one will be 8.
Yeah.
So that kind of like we did our T-shirts, the first edition of our T-shirts. The first thing we did as kind of like a big thing was a conference that we call then we call it the Power Summit, because that was done alongside with the company I was working as a physio, Scandinavian Health and Performance. So that wasn't really done by Desert Barbell, but it was very much like in the mindset of Desert Barbell, and we brought out the name during that, but it wasn't flagged by Desert Barbell. And then we got in touch we had a few ambassadors. The guys that did the Power Summit, Bryce Lewis, Mike Toucher, which two very, very knowledgeable and very, very like famous in this kind of business, as in the strength business. And very approachable guys also, and good role models. Also, Ryan Doors was there, so it kind of like became our first kind of like, if we call them brand ambassadors. We also took over Annika Zelander, one of the very, very good benches we have back in Sweden, and kind of like had her as a brand ambassador, and kind of like creating awareness, both locally and kind of like a little bit international also. And then as time moves on, the business plan matured more and more and more, and then we start pitching it for investors, and lucky enough, we found investors that was believing enough on the project. And then it was just brace ourselves for impact and go for it. And then it's exactly a year now since we started. So December last year, we had everything. That was when we opened the doors. Yeah. And it was, of course, a roller coaster to that, like finding the right, facility, ordering the equipment, getting the equipment, like doing the fit out of this place and everything. So there's a lot of moving parts. Yeah. So it was pretty hectic, like in the fall of last year.
And looking back over the last, say, 12 months since you've had it, was there anything you'd do differently if you had to start it again?
Probably there are probably like a few shortcuts we would have taken, but then again, I think Marco will agree with me that it's the things we've learned along the way and how kind of like the business developed and matured. I think it don't really. Maybe some small technicalities when it comes to the structure of the maybe the like how we structure the hiring of coaches or something like that. Maybe it will be different, or how we split commissions or whatever. But that's like small technicalities. I think as a whole, I think we've achieved kind of like what we wanted. The end product, if this is not the end product, but the product that we have now is perhaps slightly different than we had from the vision we had, but it's not by any means a less good version. It's probably better than the one we had from the start. So I think it's...
well, I guess it's the type of thing that once you start, then I guess it unfolds different
No, there are a lot of things, a lot of things that we didn't see coming. Like, and I guess that goes for everyone that had a startup. Like you think you have thought everything through. It seems like you have like 55 different steps to do. Like this should be enough. Like should be enough. And if we had 55 steps, I'm pretty sure we're up to 200 steps now. Like holy, like there was that and that and that. Oh, it's that. It's a tax on that. Oh my God. Okay, we need to have some sort of certificate for that. And for that. Oh, I didn't know that. And even though we did our basic research like really, really well, at least from my point of view, and still surprised there was some few things that has to be done.
But Dubai, you don't actually get a straight answer a lot of times. You go ask someone, we're opening up this business, what do we have to do, blah, blah, they'll tell you this, and then all of a sudden they've brought in some new law about you've got to change this.
And that's a good news that because it's not to diss Dubai or anything, but back home to start a business, and that's why I've never even planned starting a business back home, by the way. It's so many like legal things to go through. You have to have this for that. It's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of it, and it's very, very it's very set in the thing. You have to go through these steps, and you might think that it's a lot easier. It is a lot easier here, but then you can get a curveball that no one saw coming at all. And that's kind of like the interesting part. So, but I think as a whole, it's a more open climate to have an own company. It's in a way, or in a lot of ways, easier. Yeah. But then you have those curveballs that comes that you don't know about, and the entities that you ask about this question, they don't seem to know about it either. It's like a semi-curveball for them also. So it's not like people outright try to lie to you. It's just they give you the information of the best knowledge they have for now. That doesn't mean that is the same knowledge they have tomorrow. All of a sudden they have something else that like they rolled up their sleeve, like, you have to do this also. You're like, well, that wasn't the information yesterday. Yes, but it's the information today. So let's work with that.
But also I think for you, opening this here, like I guess, maybe with niche is the right way to describe it, but you're essentially the only powerlifting club that I know of here.
And I think that's
so you're first to market.
Yeah, and as you know, and I think all the listeners know that listen to this, the gym market here is incredibly big. I never even thought about having like this many gyms in a small region, because you have like the Fitness First, you have the Gold's Gym, you have the Warehouse Gym, you have all of them like really, really big. Gymnation also, like, so, and every single apartment complex have a gym. All the hotels have gyms, so you have like hundreds of them all over the place, and not to even mention the CrossFit boxes, all of them. But no one does what we do, so it's pretty cool and a little bit weird almost to be in this situation that no one does exactly what we do. You have elements of it in a lot of gyms, but only small elements. You will never find this much equipment for these two competitive sports anywhere. So that's kind of like a cool place to be. And we kind of like in a way created our total own niche. And I think that in the beginning when we opened up and we talked to other gym owners and like the gyms that we previously trained in, I think that they in a way thought that, man, like now we're gonna steal all our clients. I'm like, nah. Not really. Like we want to have collabs and like being friends with other gyms, because we do something that you will never do. Like you don't have the capacity or the money to invest this much money on a thing that isn't your primary thing. Your primary thing is all-round training. Yeah. Our primary thing is not all-round training. And it's not CrossFit. We have also, once we have those elements, we have a little bit of all-round equipment. Yes. We have a little bit of have some sandbags, we have some sleds, and we have some kettlebells. Does that make us a CrossFit box? No. We don't do CrossFit in that way.
You're not competing with CrossFit.
We do elements of CrossFit. And also, people might have the mindset that like powerlifting is close to strongman. Well, it is in a way, but we don't do strongman like Emirates Strength do strongman. They do their strongman thing, and we can support them with maybe sometimes sponsoring some other events, taking part in the World Ultimate Strongman we've done 2 years. Because that we want to support them with what they do, and we just do our own thing here. So we have some farmer handles, we have like giant freaking sandbags, But we don't do strongman. We do conditioning for like what we do, powerlifting, which just happens to coexist or like be almost the same thing with but it's like it's basic training. We don't label it as anything. So
But just for the listeners, you're not going to find a stepper or
no, we don't have any steppers and we don't have any treadmills, and especially the treadmills are for a very, very simple and specific reason, is they're too expensive. Like, it's just how it is. If we have all our equipment in the gym, is the equivalent of like maybe 8-9 the really fancy treadmills. And it's like, if you want to do cardio, you can use the sled. We have an assault bike, we have a skier, we have a rower. We also have a block. If you want to run, go run around the block then. So that is how we deal with that, because it's just not possible for us to have it.
But it's also to be a powerlifter, it's not high on the priority list.
No, especially not high intensity cardio for like longer periods of time on a regular basis. It's having some sort of cardio is very, very important. Having the capacity of lifting heavy weights for a long period of time is essential. But then in that aspect, just having other heavy objects carrying around, or just doing a little bit of cardio on the bike or like around the block or something like that, that is what we need to do. We don't need to have people running on treadmills for like 25, 40 minutes. It takes too much space and takes too much money and electricity.
Yeah.
So that's just how that is.
And just going back to the power meets and the powerlifting, can you just describe what it's like for... Because for me, I've been to them and I know what it's like, but it's, I guess, a good sense of community, but camaraderie. Everyone's kind of there. There's music on, and people are yelling and shouting, and you've got different personality types.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because how we managed to kind of like, and I guess it's luck, but I guess it's also some sort of skill for us, is that we managed to create some sort of atmosphere around it that is really, really, really cool. And I've done last time I think I've done 80, 90 competitions myself. I have on exactly no occasions, 0 occasions, had the privilege of lifting in front that kind of audience that we've had on the pyramid. Never. And I've done Europeans, worlds, multiple national championships and local meets and regionals and whatever, and on absolutely none of them we've had the atmosphere that we have here. And it's very special. I think it stems by like, it's a very tight community. People show up to see their friends and so forth, and especially on the while the females are lifting, females brings other females to watch them. Females also just happens to bring other guys watching them, and it's kind of like that new flavor of seeing girls lifting weights. I think that's really, really cool. And then of course we have people watching the guys also, but it tends to be less people watching the guys, because like everyone see once in a while the guy lifting heavy weights, so that's not as cool. But we have good atmosphere there also. But I think the special atmosphere comes when the girls are lifting and the lighter guys lift. That's really, really insane.
Well, I think the last time I was here, we had the first Omani woman competing.
Yeah, that was on the 5 that we had at the hotel.
Yes,
at Radisson Hotel. Yeah. So the Omani strength system guys brought one of their girls, and it was really, really cool. And I think that is also something that is for me is like really humbling, being in this kind of like area or this region and being kind of like in the forefront of that, because already from the start we had the Kuwaiti guys came over for, I think it was the first or second, maybe the second power meet, and then they went back, and from that sprung the Kuwait Barbell Club. So they have like a hub in Kuwait. Then you had the Omani guys coming, we had a few guys from Saudi coming. And all of a sudden, this small gym competition, because it's a gym competition, it's not like a massive event. It's starting to grow. It's more and more like a big event. But we have international people. We have people from Bahrain. So we have Bahrain, Saudi, Oman, just coming in, and Kuwait.
All the Middle East.
Yeah.
I guess you're the only one in the Middle East.
But it's really... that's also mind-blowing, but it's mind-blowing, humbling, and we're very proud of that, both me and Marco, to have that kind of like being that hub. And we're looking forward then to next year. We're going to have the Power Meet 8 and 9, and then we're also going to have the 10th one will be the kind of like the center of the thing in the end of the year. That will be a Grand Prix for the best athletes on the 8 and 9. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, cool. Just one question that's a bit more technical about powerlifting, but I've sort of just over the years watched different people lift and different techniques and stuff. But I've seen, especially with women, I've noticed different bar speeds and also fatigue points at bar speed. So typically, well, for myself and for I'd say most of the lifters, when you get to that sort of slow bar speed of 0.25 or 0.35 meters per second is when you see someone fatigue and then they stop and they'll grind out.
Yeah.
But whereas I've seen a couple, especially in the powerlifting competitions, you've see a girl's like bar speed and the bar speed's like quite fast, but then all of a sudden they're at a fatigue point. But I'd never really conceptually understood why.
Well, the way we usually explain it, and I think that has a lot to do with the truth, is like if you take, for instance, bench press, in terms of muscle fiber type on girls, if you compare not all girls, but if you compare group of guys, you will find more type 2 fibers or more of the fast twitch fibers on guys and more slow twitch fibers on girls as a group. And that also, especially for the bench press, if we take that as the example, it requires a lot of stability around the shoulder joints. So once again, as a group, girls will have more mobility than guys. And mobility requires, if you have a lot of mobility, that takes a lot of responsibility and strength and coordination around the joints. So if you take those two factors, once again, group on groups, not individuals, and you have people that have less type 2 fibers and a little bit more mobility. So that will be that they have a harder time stabilizing while doing maximum effort. So you will very, very often see, and in the range of these ways, you have a girl that has a maximum bench of 55. 50 looks like it's absolutely nothing on the bar. 52 looks super, super fast. 55 is kind of a grinder. 57 kilos is absolutely no-go. Like it looks super confident and everything. It just doesn't go because they don't have enough twitch and they don't have enough. I think the main issue will be, or the main component that impair them is the stability around the joints.
Yeah, they can't get that tightness.
So if you look at a guy, a group of guys, but most guys, how they miss a bench press will be they violently trying to fight it up from the chest. It goes up maybe halfway and they stop grinding there. Whereas a girl goes down, boom, it's dead.
Yeah.
But it's also a skill that they will learn, and also, of course, while training specifically to powerlifting, the misses will gradually look a little bit different. But as a group, it will look like that. And I think also what can screw people up a little bit, especially in the bench press, is that the smallest increment you can do on a competition is 2.5. So if you have a girl that has a maximum bench of 47.5, 45, 47.5, and 50, they're quite a big percentage-wise jump. It's just, if you compare to have a guy maybe have a maximum of 177.5, so between 75, 77.5, and 80 is not percentage-wise that much. So, but you see, that's why the jumps becomes so high, especially around 40 kilos. So they will smash 40, 42.5 goes nowhere. So, but it's at least that's how it's like in practice work. But the theory behind it and how that actually compares to one another as group is that more slow twitch on girls, especially on the upper body and the trapezius area, which like kind of like stabilizes quite a lot. So that's also what we have to then figure out and trying to get the girls better. But what's interesting is that the girls, almost all girls, have an insane capacity of doing reps on like 80-85% of the max, especially bench. They can bench for like ding, 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 like forever. And then you do a guy with the same thing and they struggle quite a lot. So
yeah. And then
you can use that then. So like doing like a little bit more AMRAPs than guys do, and like you can for sure do heavy 6s or heavy 8s higher percentage-wise with a girl than with a guy, because the absolute weight is so small. Also, the recovery is probably a lot faster. Also.
Yeah, and then so when it comes to like program design, obviously you'd factor that in. So a program that that you have for a guy coming in versus a female coming in? Is there much difference in the training blocks, or?
Generally, the block design look kind of the same, but the reps will be slightly higher for girls. Usually, it tends to be, and also but the percentage-wise, especially, can be higher for girls on, let's say, 6 or 8 reps than for guys. But what we use here also, and all of the staff uses this, but me, Chris, and Dan, the powerlifting coaches. We've adapted like a strategy that calls emerging strategy, and you can do it like to the absolute T and doing only emerging strategies, but that's not exactly what we do. But you design a microcycle. You're trying to repeat that. You don't do massive changes. So we do slight changes or alterations every now and then. But it's kind of like repeating that until you have as much as possible out of that microcycle, and then you change it a little bit.
How long typically would a microcycle be?
So that's where this differs from like conventional block periodization. It differs because it's a matter of like
specificity.
One person can improve the performance on the same microcycle for maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe 7 weeks. So ideally, we monitor that, so we see that after 5 weeks, you still have a little bit more in you. Do 6 weeks, man, we maybe have 1 more in you here, and do 7 weeks, and then feels like, man, now we hit the C, and we can't really get anything more, and then we switch, because I think that's a pretty darn good way of seeing it. Because if you only do, let's say, 4 or 5 weeks blocks only, maybe you miss 1 or 2 weeks of really, really good training, and the expression that kind of like the founder of this kind of like strategy, Mike Teixeira, uses is that you want to be able to train in that peak condition as long as you can, because otherwise you kind of like avoid those high stimulus. And I think that's one of the reasons why, like I've avoided that like quite some time. I think that often programming myself in like 4 or 5 weeks blocks, and as soon as I hit the 4th or 5 weeks block, or the 4th or 5th week, I think, oh shit, man, now it's time for deload, so I don't overtrain. Whereas training now, this is the first time since I started training the last 6 months or 5 months, I actually have some sort of guidance when I train, personal guidance by Mike. And I see that he pushes me a lot longer in the blocks that I would have done myself, and the results seems to be going really, really well. And that's for a guy in his mid-40s that's been training for 25 years. So I think that's a good testament to that. This kind of like style or approach works.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense, because if you're still adapting, you're still getting benefits. It's like, why would you change it?
Yeah, what would you change it for? But the benefit we have here has to be said also. We train a lot of beginners. So whatever we do, whatever we throw at them, the newbie gains will have the curve pointing straight upwards. Yeah. So that being said, we don't do this emergence strategy per se strictly on all of them, because then maybe we do 11 weeks on one, but we do like 4, 5, maybe 6 weeks, and then just for the sake of everyone's wellness, we switch and doing some sort of recovery work, and then we do another block.
Because then it becomes more a mental thing of keeping them engaged.
But I think it's a very, very useful tool, an approach for especially a little bit more advanced lifters, which we have the fortune to train a few of them here also. And also I use that kind of system for a few of the really, really high-end bench presses I train back home in Europe. They seem to also respond. These are people that have been training like well more than 10 years, which is like...
Yeah, and so when you define, so obviously you've got beginner, intermediate, advanced. How do you define someone who crosses that? Yeah, it's a
little bit hard, because you have to. The training age is a popular like expression, but it's not only that, because if you have to also a little bit look at the results, because if you have like for instance the guy that our Swedish guy that won the sub juniors yesterday, he is an absolute beast, performs on the highest world level, broke the sub junior world record. But he is in years an absolute beginner. I think he trained like 2 years or something. It's like, that's a beginner.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's a beginner, but it seems to be
He's
like some
advanced
kind of
result.
beginner. So like he will probably be at least semi-advanced, even though he's only trained for like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
So we have to factor in like how do they move and everything, but and what kind of weights are they shifting. But I'm like, if you just roughly say, like the first 2-3 years, that will be like a beginner. Like up to like 4 or 5 years, that's like then you're pretty experienced. Everything, anyone that have been training strictly for lifting for more than like 5 years, 5-6 years, that will be like a pretty advanced person. And then you have someone training for 10 years, that is rock solid.
And I guess when you cross over to that, the upper threshold, then things, I mean, not that recovery is not important when you're a beginner, it's still critical, but when you get to that upper level, if you miss, certain aspects of your recovery, then you can see a degradation to the performance.
And I mean, the longer you train and the heavier the loads, all those factors come into play even more. But it's interesting when we talk about this being a beginner and not. If you have people coming from CrossFit, for instance, because it's a very relatable thing, you can have people training CrossFit for like 6-7 years, hence being they're being advanced in CrossFit. They start up doing powerlifting, the absolute beginners. And you think, man, but they've done almost the same thing. Nah, not really. It's not the same. It's very similar, but it's not the same. So you will have those people having, once again, absolute new beginnings, straight up. And they're as surprised as everyone else. Not for us, but for other CrossFitters. Like, man, I thought this girl or guy was strong. Yeah, but you haven't even nearly tapped into the potential because you're diluting the strength, as you're not diluting yourself, you're diluting the strength peak with doing so much other stuff that not beneficial for you moving forward in strength. So that's not meaning that they're not moving forward in CrossFit, which they do, of course. And of course, if you go from being a high-end CrossFitter, starting doing powerlifting, and then you go back to CrossFit, you will suck again if you do powerlifting like on a longer period of time because you lose skill. But I just meaning that everything is very specific, and especially if you push yourself to the limits. If you do this or do this, you have some sort of crossover effect, but you will be better at the things you do. So
well, that makes sense. When we're talking about, we talked a little bit about program design, a bit about technique and all that stuff, but in terms of the other aspect of recovery, so it is a huge part of any sport, but obviously huge in powerlifting in terms of not having that neural fatigue, but just being able to periodize it so you're peaking at the right time. But also, what advice? What are the general, maybe not roadblocks, but what are the things that people need to think about with recovery when it comes to powerlifting?
Yeah. So first of all, I think that a logical thing that people will understand when they hear is that, for instance, if you look at squat and deadlifts compared to bench, the squat and deadlift pattern look extremely similar. If for a narrow stance like deadlifter and a like semi-narrow stance squatter, the only difference, if you look at it, if you take away the bars, like the bar is lying on the ground, one lift, the other ones you have it on your shoulders. So that's full fatigue, very close to same things. Whereas the bench is completely different. You're lying down and pressing vertically straight forward. So that means that you will be able to do bench press a lot more often than you do squat and deadlift. So generally, like not for everyone, but for a lot of our lifters, we do like a 2-2-4 split. So you do squat 2 times per week, you do deadlift 2 times per week, and you do bench 4 times per week. I have trained very few people that have benched less than 3 times per week. I can't, on the top of my head, almost remember anyone the last few years, because you can have a lot more higher frequency since you don't fatigue yourself in the other lifts.
Because the volume's lower, but intensity and frequency.
The volume, the total volume in terms of like your whole system, or the system load is a lot less compared to, especially if you do squat and deadlift, because they're so similar. So if you do squat 2 times, deadlift 2 times, well, that's 4 times in a standing up position. You lift something from the floor, have something on your back. And then you can pretty much think that, maybe I would probably be able to do the same for bench, which is a completely different direction, completely different muscles. So that will probably be the first one. Don't be scared of having high frequency in the benching. But then it's also a matter of like, you can't kill yourself every session, but the rule that you can only like fatigue yourself like once or twice per week in a movement is wrong, especially if you're going to be sufficient in it. You have to do it often and repeated. So that will probably be bench frequency up, of course monitoring so you don't go like too heavy or like you're having too much volume, but the amount of punishment your upper body can take is immense, because you don't walk around on your hands on the day either. Like if you do squat and deadlift, you have to remember that if you take 10,000 steps a day, you walk around on your legs, you walk around your feet. You don't walk around.
Get in and out of a chair every day.
Like that is legs. So you don't do that with your arms. The only one doing that, the CrossFitters walk around on their hands a lot, but it's not the same fatigue in your hands, arms, and shoulders. Yeah. So I think that also, if you just sensible what you do other upper body, you can bench quite a lot, at least three, but 4 or maybe even 5 times a week.
Yeah, and then when do you drop in, like, say, a supplemental lift, or what, for those movements? We'll just call it bench press, like accessory lifts for those. What?
And we'll do. So first of all, we do like a lot of variation. So you don't only do flat competition style bench press every session. Maybe you do a longer pause. Maybe you do a shorter pause, like just a touch and go. Maybe you do it on pins. Maybe you do it on blocks. Maybe you do it with rubber bands assisted, or you do it against the rubber bands. Or you do dumbbell work, which is essentially the same kind of press, but just a slightly tweak. So you can do the same movement pattern as in kind of like direction, but you do a slight tweak with either the pause or the equipment you use. You can use dumbbells, bars, like a wider bar or anything like that. So we have to have those things also to play around with. Same with the squat and deadlift. Maybe we don't only do like competition style heavy deadlift with belt. We do deficit, we do on blocks, you can do with rubber band, you can do with chains. You can do an altered style if you do sumo, you can do conventional. If you do conventional, you can do sumo. We can use the trap bar, we can use the fat bar, anything like that. So you do slightly tweak the stimulus, but it's still very, very close. So that's kind of... And without losing focus of doing what actually matters, which is the competition style. You will always find in the programs that we do the competition style bench press, deadlift, and squat every single week. But then small alterations also. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you come to, like, say, monitoring, I know you do a lot of work with the RPE scale on, how they're fatigued, or how they thought that workout was, or how they thought that lift was. Is there any other tools that you monitor? I don't know, sleep or neural fatigue or anything?
We've put in our programs now for some athletes that they monitor some sort of all-round fatigue and sleep ranking. But then again, it's hard enough for a lot of people just to put down the RPE for the rate to proceed exertion and for every set. That, like, additional information, how accurate is it? I'm damn sure it's very usable if it's correct information. But then again, it seems like people sometimes they have too much to report. So, but what I would value and what I monitor, for instance, is sleep and how, like, the average, how I feel in a few different questions every single day. And just by answering them, I can kind of like, because it stops me and have me think about them. How useful the information is, that means I don't really know. But at least it's useful for me to reflect upon it every single day. So that can make me doing wiser choice with my own training. And I hope that if we have that column in our programs, at least some of them will reflect on, maybe I haven't slept, like I slept 3 hours the last 2 days. That's not really good. So maybe I lower my expectations for this workout. But I think out of all the aspects on all the questions, I think sleep is probably the most important one. Because if people are sleep deprived for like a week or two, it will go down. Like, that's just how it is. And I think that we must in some way reinforce that to all people. I think that before, or before, like years ago, maybe it was kind of cool, like, yeah, I don't need to sleep more than 5 hours. It's like wasting my time. Like, I think that doesn't really sound cool anymore.
No.
Maybe it was cool 10 years ago, but it doesn't feel. Now it's like you hear people, trying to get my 8 hours sleep, whatever.
Yeah.
That is a more, I think that's pretty important.
Well, it's just on trend. I think the science has emerged now that people realize, you can go without sleep for certain periods of time, but if you want to perform at your best, the top level athletes are the guys who are sleeping the most.
Yeah.
When it comes to the other aspect of recovery, so nutrition side of things, when you get someone to a certain level, what's nutritional approaches, or do you outsource that, or how does that work if you're coaching someone and they get to that national level?
It's also a really good question, and one close to my heart also, because for some reason, and I think that also had due to a little bit of the culture before, some people have the mindset that powerlifters just binge eat whatever they want, which is maybe for super heavyweights, especially 10, 15 years, maybe even today is true. But the vast majority, as in 90% of all lifters, are not super heavyweight lifters. We compete in weight categories all the way from the girls is 47, 52, 57, 63, and so forth. And the lightest guys are 59 kilos. You can't binge eat everything you see if you're 59 kilos. 74, no. 83, no. You're going to be like fit as hell, right? So it's a matter of like having as much quality foods in as you possibly can for your desired weight class. And then if a person decides to go in the 93 or the 105 or the 120 class, they will eat accordingly. And my aspect and my view has always been, and it will be like, for the rest of my life, is that shitty food, and everyone knows what shitty food is. I think that's also a little bit annoying now that you have people like, especially in Dubai for some reason, have some sort of like wonder diet, doing this, doing that. You have like people like drinking cream for breakfast and like cream and bacon, and they claim that it's like that's the best thing for you. Like, if you just take a step back, analyze, you will know what shit food is and good food is. So if you compare like a fast food burger with a steak and some like potatoes and veggies, like there's no one can ever say that like a fast food choice is better. It might be suitable for that specific reason that you don't have any other food around. So that's totally doable. But it will always be like a clear distinction what is good and what's not good food. Yeah. And I think that we had a good seminar around this last week when Bryce Lewis and Bryce Krochek was here and talking about nutrition. And I think what Bryce Lewis said, in order to break the rules, you have to know what the rules is. So if you have a good conception about your food, you can by all means, you can have social dinners, you can have a burger, or you can have like a pizza, whatever, every now and then, just because you know that you on the 9 out of 10 other options, 9 out of 10 other occasions, you go like the good food way. So then you can break the rules because you know what the rules are. But if you have people just binge eating like a pizza, donuts, like hamburgers all the time, like, well, it looks kind of messed up. Yeah, but I saw you ate a pizza. Yeah, like almost once in 3 months. Yeah, you taking things out of proportion. So I think that, and I think also the modern powerlifters, as in the guys that are like stepping out on the world famous stage now, they are way more like all-round athletes in all aspects, that nutrition, sleep, and recovery and everything, than the lifters was at least like 10, 15 years ago, and especially like the heavier guys back then.
Yeah, well, it just comes down to like awareness, social media, people learning more. You can go onto YouTube and you realize that, even for me, I track my sleep, and I can see if I've had something not so good to eat for dinner. Yeah. And I track my sleep that night on my heart rate variability, my body temperature's all off. Yeah. And it's like, that's just one night, one meal. Yeah. And if you multiply that over 5 weeks, 6 weeks, a year, 10 years, your results are not going to be as good because you're not sleeping as good.
That is the logic. And that is also how we want athletes to see it. But then again, I think that the culture can be, or like the perception of culture more than the actual culture, might be a little bit deceptive, than that that people have some sort of mindset. Oh, I'm going to go to powerlifting now. I can eat everything I want. Well, you can if you want to, but like it's not going to have as good results than if you actually think about what you're eating. But then again, you have the other side, and we see this also here in Dubai a lot, like people overemphasizing the amount of food, like or the importance of food and supplements. But the boring thing with sports nutrition, if you look at the actual sports nutrition science, is it hasn't changed much like the last freaking 50 years. Like, because the humans are the same. So you have like a certain amount, you have to have a certain amount of protein, you have to have some sort of good fats, and you have to have carbs. And that's like basic sports nutrition. It's the same now as it was before. It's really interesting also. And my father's, so I remember he started like lifting in the late 60s. In the bodybuilding magazines from the 60s, 68, he has all issues from a magazine called Hercules back in Sweden. 68, 69, 70, 71. The advice for nutrition in those magazines could be taken from the freaking Instagram today. It was 1968.
Yeah.
So like, okay, and that could be portrayed as like, this is the new shit right here. Like, wow, it's
not new.
It's since the 60s, man.
Yeah.
So, but there in between might have come like ups and downs, but it still goes back to the same thing. Keep it simple. Just have, if you have your demands for energy has to be like set. You have to have enough energy, and then if you want to gain weight, you have a little bit more. If you want to lose weight, have a little bit less. Just make smart food choices, and it will be all right.
Yeah. But in terms of like getting stronger, building more muscle, you need to be in somewhat of a surplus in terms of your energy.
Yeah, at least in periods of time. I mean, people have tried to do this equation of putting muscle on while maintaining calorie balance or just below. And in small, like it might be possible in very small groups and like if in a very controlled setting, maybe. But if you're gonna be bigger and stronger, you have to eat a little bit more than before, a little bit more than you actually when you're on your calorie balance. That's just how it is. And then it's also then, because this is also a very, very common thing that people come in and say, okay, I weigh 96. My goal is to do the same weight as I do now, hopefully a bit more, but in 93 category. So that, and the advice will always be, and that's not for culture reason, that is for like absolute logical reasons. Do not screw up and start screwing around with your food and try to go on a diet here if you're going to be stronger, if you aim to be stronger. The advice will be aim to be stronger, accept that you will most likely gain a few pounds, and do your first competition. Like if you're in the running for a medal at a international championship and you weigh 59 and you could potentially go down to the 57, all right, go for it. But if you're doing your first power meet and you weigh, as a girl, say 74 or 75, desperately want to go down to the 72 category, don't do it. Just weigh whatever you weigh. It doesn't freaking matter. Like, just perform as well as you can. And hopefully we manage to, I know for a fact in some of the cases that I've tried to get this across have not worked at all. But some of them actually works, which is real. That feels nice.
Do you have any horror stories of people coming into their first powerlifting meet and they've tried a new supplement or they've tried a new diet or they've tried something and it just hasn't worked?
Yeah, no, it's I can take one that it actually semi-worked, but I wouldn't recommend it for anyone. It was one of the clients that I have, a very good member here also at Desert Barbell. He was going he weighed around 72, I think, 72, 73. And it was a week out from the meet. And he said, I want to go into 66. And I said, no, I do not support that by any means. And he looked at me and said, but I want to do it. And I said, I don't give a shit. I do not support that. So he says, can you help me with the water loading and cutting, which I easily can do. But I said, no, I will not be a part of it. And to be fair, he said, okay, I accept that you don't want to help me. but I will try to solve this on my own. I said, good luck to you. But I hope that you find within yourself, you go in the 74 category. Shows up on meet day, looks like an absolute ghost, weighs in at 65.9, do one lift in each of the lifts, and we have 3 attempts. And it was like absolute diluted, but his mindset is so strong, so he managed to do fairly good results anyway. But the way he looked and the way he felt, I wouldn't recommend it. But I have a really good story about, and also this is even more extreme. In, I think it was 2009, we had one of our lifters going for a world record in bench press. The cutoff was 110. So he came to the arena the night before, and he weighed 117.8, I think it was. And this is the night before. And he's... It was a guy from a neighboring club to us, and he asked us to bring our competition scale. Say, hey, Pat, you have the competition scale. I want to weigh myself. And he weighed 117.8. We looked at each other, holy, he's smoked. And he just said to me, I'm not going to sleep too much tonight. I said, what the hell are you going to do then? I'm going to be in the sauna. So, morning came. He weighed in at 109.99. And we were like, absolutely mad. How did you solve it? So he was in the sauna for 6 or 7 hours straight. This was in Finland, so it's pretty cool because he came into the sauna and there was some Finnish guys there from some other sport I can't remember, and they said like, okay, now we're gonna out sauna you, and he said, you're gonna lose because I'm gonna be here for a few hours. So after 3 hours, the guys left. So we continued for a few hours after that. So whatever, he skipped the warm-up because his legs started to cramp up. Remember, this was a bench, so he doesn't need his legs anyway. So the legs started cramping, ditched the warm-up, go out on the podium, load the world record, which was, I can't even remember what it was, in the 110 category by then, was probably close to 300. Did the world record, came out, starting cramping up, and the guys that helped him said, "Do you want
after the weigh-in? Can't you rehydrate or not?"
Yeah, you can, but like if you lost 7.8 kilos in a night's sauna, you can only hydrate so much. So he just skipped the last 2 attempts. He actually did the same thing on the nationals just a few months after, and like totally crashed after the competition. I had to go to the hospital. So the basic rule here is like you can for sure water load and water cut a few kilos. If you're a decent sized guy, it's no problem to cutting maybe 2.5-3 kilos in a week. But not more than that. It's starting to be a little bit risky, and the hydration is the most important thing. Rehydrate after doing that. It's important also to have food, but hydration is the key. That is the absolute key.
Yeah. And you spoke about it just before, and we spoke about it offline. You run seminars here. Can you just talk about what you do on the education side of things specifically?
Yeah.
And
so
who
what
are the people?
what we do like very often, and just running here is we do workshops. So every second or third week, something like that, we do either a snatch-based workshop, clean and jerk-ish workshop, squat, bench, or deadlift workshop. Or we also do like a full-on introduction to weightlifting, which is of course both of the movements, or introduction to powerlifting, which is a full seminar, 4 hours on all the 3 movements. And we do this to, first of all, the small seminars, as in the separate squat, bench, and deads, are free for members. And that costs very, very, I think it's 150 for non-members.
Do you take them, or is it who takes them?
Yeah, I do it, or Chris or Dan do the powerlifting ones. Ina, our weightlifting coach, do the weightlifting one. So we have a schedule running, and like we try to we not do the same one all the time. But yes, for the reason that we have that as our kind of like our closest to heart movement. I've done a few of the bench ones. Chris have done a few of the squat ones, and Dan has done a few of the deadlifts ones. I've also had Chris have done a few of the bench ones also. It's just that we have some sort of that is our absolute passion. So it's seem fitting to have that way. When we do the introduction to powerlifting, we are all three there, and that's also like a half-day seminar that is a little bit more meaty than the other ones, and that's also not free for members. That's also, if you want to attend that, there is a small fee, but we do like, it's, to be honest, it's very, very cheap because we want to spread the knowledge. We don't don't overcharge those ones. So that what we do like on a running basis. We've also had the Global Strength Summit we had last year, when we had a lot of the like world's best coaches and athletes coming through. So we have done that 2 years. For this year, I think just in terms of like, we're running out of time, we're running out of like space in the calendar. We will not do it in the same setting this year. We might do something smaller, but for sure we have that in the pipeline for the following few years. We're going to have some sort of big conference again, because I think that Dubai is also such a nice area for people to come from other nations to come here. So easy to get here.
Yeah. So just on that education, who are the people you look up to in the industry, and what content, if you consume content, whether it's books or YouTube or podcasts or whatever it is, how do you get your information?
Yeah. So one of my biggest inspiration, like of all time, will be Mike Tuchscherer, which is the guy that trains me as of now. He wrote the Reactive Training System manual. Must be like 10 years ago or something. So he's not a huge Instagram putting out content there type of guy, but he has a good podcast, Reactive Training System. Also, the guy that we had here last week, Bryce Kroichek from Canada, he has an extremely good YouTube channel called Calgary Barbell, which is incredible. The movies have like incredible quality. The content is incredible. He's very pedagogic and everything. So for beginners or intermediate or even like experienced lifter, Calgary Barbell YouTube will be the place to go for really, really nice information. And then you have, of course, like Bryce Lewis and his whole crew with the TSA, the strength athletes systems. It's also good. In Sweden, we have a guy called Alexander Eriksson, which put out a lot of good content there. In terms of, what else do we got? We have, if you want to be more like in depth in like the hypertrophy and the nutritional side, you have Eric Helms and Greg Knuckles, and they also have that the newsletter Mass that they send out. You can also subscribe to. So one of the podcasts that I've listened to recently quite a lot is the Iron Culture, which is with Eric Helms and Omar Isuf, and also there's a lot of good content there coming out. So, but I would say for the most accessible content, that will be Bryce Kroichek, Calgary Barbell. That's practical powerlifting knowledge, like packaged like super great.
Cool.
So it was an honor to have him here, to be honest. We had him here for a week. So.
Well, that's the beauty of having your own facility and being the only powerlifting place. It's like when the powerlifters come to Dubai, they come to you. So
that's really cool.
So we're starting to get to the end of the interview. So I just got a couple of questions just to wrap it up, and just to, I guess, for the listeners, just to find a little bit more about yourself. So rapid fire questions, take as long as you want to answer them. But first one is favorite book. Can be training book, can be any book.
Oh, favorite book. I think that's a hard one. There was this, so there would be a Swedish book called Swedish Mafia. It's about the like the underground crime world in Sweden, which is it's pretty cool, because we have there's quite a few things linked to my city there, especially with the Hells Angels. So Swedish Mafia, the book on Swedish crime, that's pretty cool. Yeah, okay, that's good. And favorite movie? Well, that's I must be a little bit boring, and there's two of them. So my absolute favorite movie of all time, the people who know me will know I will say Top Gun, which is kind of like epic and classic. But in terms of like quality as in acting and stuff, I would probably say Shawshank Redemption. It's kind of boring because I think like 9 out of 10 people have that on their list. But it's insanely good. So I was a tie between Top Gun and Shawshank Redemption.
Well,
for different reasons.
Both are very good movies. Completely
very
different. But,
completely different.
But I think there's a new Top Gun coming out.
Yes.
I think next year.
Yes.
So
and in next summer.
Yeah,
yes.
you'll be first in line.
I will. I disclaimer here. I saw Top Gun the first year. I saw Top Gun 11 times. First year came. I saw the premiere 1986. Me and my best friend Nick went with my mom and saw it. And totally honest, we both cried when Goose died. Hope spoiler alert there. Hope no one.
If you haven't seen the first one.
If you haven't seen that, so we both cried and we both denied it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
It never happened. Yeah.
And cheat meals?
Cheat meal, that will be my own burger. We barbecue a lot. And by a lot, I mean at least 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that will be my own burger,
Yeah. And a purchase in, say, the last 12 months, 2 years that's had a big impact, whether you bought something for training or something for health or something for the club that's had a big impact on your life?
Oh, shit. What can that be?
Could be an app on your phone, could be...
Yeah, good. That will be my investment to get a coach. Yeah, with a reactive training system and starting logging my training on their app. That by far, because that's like a pretty big investment, and I think it's also one of the best that I've done. That will be it.
Yeah. Investing in yourself.
Yes.
Is there a quote or a phrase that you'd say often when you're coaching someone, or that the guys here at Desert Barbell would be familiar with you saying all the time, or not?
But probably, but it's maybe not suitable for a podcast. Not a famous quote by coaching or anything. No, not really. One of my favorite quotes when it comes to training per se, and like when it comes to getting a message across, was actually from what's his name, the strength sensei.
Charles Poliquin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm not too much familiarized with his work, but he had a quote that said, "You can fire a cannon from a canoe."
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really nice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to be said about the things I know about his systems and his training, but that is the good one, I think.
Yeah, well, I think with Charles Poliquin, I've done quite a few of his courses. I've known him, well, obviously he's gone now, but his ability to tell good stories and to have amazing anecdotes and things. He was very good at captivating a room.
Yeah, and then I've always if you have someone portraying themselves as an absolute guru, that's usually not.
It's a bit of a red flag.
Super great. That's a little bit of a red flag, but that really resonates with me, and I use that a lot, especially when I coach bench press. Yeah,
and would you? It's I guess a hard question. I don't know whether I'd have an answer for someone if they asked me this, but what's your do you have like a training philosophy in your sort of a way you could encapsulate your philosophy on training and strength?
Like a catchphrase. Now it would probably be movement skill, kind of like, and not balls to the walls at least. It'd be movement skill and precision, or any of those kind of like pretentious words. So just trying to perfect the movements rather than bulking up and building a lot of muscles and that kind of like.
Yeah, cool. All right, so finally, where can people get in contact with you? What's the best place to get in contact with you?
Yeah, probably the best way is either contact details on the DB, that's a Barbell Instagram, or my own one, which is for a specific reason. It's called Borja the Swede. It has a story that was my nickname back home, Borja, which is a Swedish name. Yeah. You can. My name is Patrik Hedqvist, so you can also search for that. So on the gram will be easy, or either the DB or my own private one.
Cool. Awesome. Do you have any parting words or anything?
No, I don't think so.
Awesome. All right.
Well, I hope to see as many people as possible dropping by. And also I can say that if you're a UAE resident, you have a free day pass to swing by.
Yeah, for sure.
Look at the club.
I'll put all your details, all the links on the show notes, so people will be able to find you.
Perfect.
But thank you for your time. Thank you for spending it with me. It's been awesome.
Yeah, good. I'll see you at the next Parameet.
Yes.